Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about masking and non-destructive editing. And so you can see here that I have a skyline picture that I'm going to use to show you guys how to use masking and masking being a form of non-destructive editing. So what I'm going to do first, just to set this up, and this will make sense later on in the video, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So that way I have two that are layered on top of one another. So I'm going to right click on my background, duplicate layer, and now I have two. And I'm actually going to unlock this uh, background layer, layer 0 as well. That way I can hide it, which obviously didn't change anything on my screen because I have two duplicate layers, but that's what I'm going to do to set this up to use the masking tools. That way you guys can see kind of how it works and why it's efficient. So once I've done all that, I'm going to add a layer mask to my background copy, my second layer here. And I'm going to actually rename this so that way it makes a little bit more sense. Let's do skyline top layer. Okay. So now that I'm on this, I'm going to add a mask to this layer. So you got to ensure that it's selected, and you'll know that it's selected if it's got kind of this whitish dotted line around it. And I'm going to add a mask, which is this little camera button down here. And then when I do that, you're going to see this little paperclippy looking icon and then this second box pop up here. And this is my mask. So you can use the layer to remove and add parts of the photo that you want to see or don't want to see without actually destroying the original image. So when I paint, let's say when I paint black over, and you have to use black and white in this instance, you paint black over parts that you want to erase and white over the parts that you want to see. So in this case, I'm going to erase my sky. And as you can see here with my black brush tool, it is erasing the sky portion, what I'm hovering over with my brush tool here. Get that out of the way. So let's say in this instance, I want to use my mask tool to make my sky a little bit more sunsetty. It's kind of dull in this picture, and so we're going to use this to um, make that seem a little bit more bright. So this is not going to be, perfect, but this is just to kind of show you guys how this works. And so same difference, say I made a mistake, I cut off a little bit of that building there. So I'm going to flip this to white. And with my white tool, I'll be able to kind of add that back in there so you guys can kind of see how that works. So, okay. A couple more things to show you guys when it comes to the layer mask. When you press Alt, the Alt button, and then click on your layer mask, that's going to open up the mask in its own view. So you can see what I've selected and what I haven't when you do the Alt and then click on your mask. So I'm going to undo that. Oops. Alt, click back, and that will take you back to where you were before. So when I click on the Shift button and click on my layer mask, that's going to temporarily disable my mask, and you can see it's got a red X over it. So right now my mask is disabled, so to bring that back, I'm just going to do the same thing, Shift click, and that brings my layer mask back. And then one more thing is Control I is going to invert my selection. And so now that that's been inverted, you can see that you can now see the sky rather than the city. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to undo that. And then what I'm going to do next, since I have painted black on my sky here and removed that from the layer mask, I'm now going to edit my bottom layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the intensity, because increasing the intensity is going to give my sky that look that I'm going for, that colorful, you know, really bright, vibrant, etc. So I hid my top layer here, so that way right now I'm only messing with my bottom layer. So I'm going to go up here to Image, Adjustments, and let's mess with the vibrance of this photo. So I'm going to turn the vibrance up, the saturation a little bit. And I know that this is making my city look kind of funky, look really, really orange, and that's okay because um, my mask is going to cover that. So let's go to exposure. I'm actually not going to mess with that. That's not going to do a whole lot for me. Saturation. Turn that up a little bit. Okay, that's pretty good. So now that my bottom layer is more intense, that layer mask that I created here is going to kind of cover the parts of this image that I don't want to see. So when I turn that back on, you can see that now my sky is much more vibrant than what it was before, but my city, due to this layer mask, hasn't changed. And so now what I can do when I have my layer mask selected to kind of clean this up, excuse me, I can zoom into my city image, go to my brush tool, and when I use this black brush, that's going to take away that layer. And so it's allowing me to kind of clean up these lines and make it to where it looks a little bit less choppy and have all these extra lines that aren't necessary. So I won't go through and record myself, you know, fixing all of that, but you guys kind of understand um, how that works now. And you can see when I zoom out, obviously just fixing that made it look much better. So adding that layer mask allowed me to change the, you know, the properties of the image without actually, you know, destroying my original image, because I still have my original image here. If I wanted to delete this bottom layer and disable this mask, I still have my original image here that is untouched and not destroyed. So that is masking and non-destructive editing.